Alright, Blast Bounty, it's a thing, it's been going on over the course of this week. Let's sit down and talk about some of the results, as well as some of the pros and cons of this as a format. I do have to give a lot of respect for Blast for trying something new and really trying to innovate in the tournament space, but overall I think Blast Bounty the second time around has not sat as well as it did the first time around at the beginning of this year. Let's talk what went good, what went bad, as well as some of the most latest results in the build-up to the LAN playoff finals that will be happening next week. If you guys enjoy this kind of coverage, you can show me by leaving a like, leaving a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel already, help me hit 10k subs by the end of the year. Also, during the course of Blast Bounty, by the end of next week, I would like to hit 1,000 followers on Twitch. We're currently one shy of 800, so follow me at twitch.tv/LionHeartZ2, help me reach that goal so I can look more appealing to co-stream big events in the future. And lastly, let's go ahead and thank today's sponsor. This video is sponsored by SkinsMonkey, a CS2 trading website. You put in the skins that you want to trade, you select what you want, you use my code LionHeartZ for up to $5 off, or click the top link in the description, and boom, new drip.
Nice.
You can also use my code for a 35% deposit bonus if you want to buy with real money. And they have a free section with cool giveaways. So check the top link in the description, use my code to buy 15 Dragon Lores to let them know I sent you their way, and thank you to SkinsMonkey for sponsoring this video. So why now? If you're familiar with my recapping on the channel, typically I wait till the end of the group stage or whatever is the stage before the playoffs or whatever tournament we're covering, and then go through all of that in one bigger video, which is going to be the case for Blast Bounty, but I realized that would be an absurd 24 single elimination best of 3 series by the time it was all said and done, which was going to be a daunting task at best. So I figured now that we're in the round of 16 and we're dealing with some of the more legitimate teams, it was good to hop on and do daily coverage over the next couple of days in the build up to the playoffs that will culminate next week. So I have to go over these first 16 results to some extent because I haven't talked about them yet, and this kind of comes to the issue with format. Blast Bounty is an interesting concept where the whole premise of the tournament is lower seeded teams challenge higher seeded teams to capture their bounty, the monetary worth assigned to a team for how good it is. Someone like Vitality has the highest bounty in the field for being the best team in the world, whereas a team like, say, Legacy, for example, are much lower rated. So if that lower rated team like Legacy were to beat Vitality, they would claim their bounty, their accumulated amount of money won over the course of the event. This gets really interesting once we get to the playoff aspect, because a team like Team Spirit, for example, could challenge another team like, say, Mouse, and say, hey, we'll go all in, we'll play for pink slips, we'll bet every cent of money we've won so far that we can beat you in a playoff series, which is really, really exciting. So why is this not necessarily working to the extent that I think Blast had hoped it will? Well, I think it boils down to how the format's actually played out. 16 single elimination best of 3s into 8 more single elimination best of 3s leading into a single elimination playoff bracket is a lot of games for a 2-week period. Granted, Blast are doing the right thing, I think, with only streaming about 4 games a day, which makes it very palatable, very easy to watch multiple series in a single day, compared to, say, an ESL who typically does 8. But it's still a lot, and with it being single elimination, it's hard for over the course of that event to build up narratives, because a team can't lose and then try to make a run through the lower bracket. They lose and they're out. So if you're an underdog and you take a big swing to try and beat a really highly seeded team and lose, well, you're done. So it leads to a lot of one-sided matchups, and in point of fact of that, in the round of 32, there were a lot of one-sided matchups where the underdog could not hope to upset the players they challenged. If I had to give a very specific piece of feedback for Blast, I think the bounty format's actually really interesting, but I don't think it works for a single event kind of format. I think it'd be an awesome thing to build narratives over the course of a longer stretch of time, like if this was a hermetically sealed league, for example. Like, imagine if this was the NBA, and a really bad team like the Charlotte Hornets challenged the Golden State Warriors, but lost. And then later on in the season, the Hornets had like generated some momentum, won some more games, and came back several weeks later and challenged the Warriors again, who had also won their own games in the meantime, and this time beat them and claimed the Warriors' accumulated prize pool in the meantime. That'd be really cool to see play out conceptually in a game like Counter-Strike. Like, imagine a longer ESL Pro League style format that took place over the course of, say, a month or two, where teams would play the occasional best of 3, maybe once or twice a week in between all the other events, and allowed the bounties and the storylines to build up over time into a LAN finals. That would be really interesting and actually be really cool to see play out, but it's just not practical with the schedule for Counter-Strike. The other big issue I haven't brought up is that this is all online. Online best of threes are just inherently less enjoyable because it introduces more variance that isn't present in a LAN environment, like connection issues, server stability, hit reg issues, all these things that are exacerbated by CS2 in general. So it creates this feeling where I want to be really excited and invested in the aspect of the challenging teams that are above you, but I feel like we don't really get to see that play out till we get narrowed down into some of the better top 15, top 10 teams, because a lot of these are one-sided blowouts by design, and we haven't even gotten to the LAN aspect. The finals, I think, could be really interesting because you have teams with huge bounties challenging each other for huge potential payoffs, like I already laid out. This part of the Blast bounty just feels kind of mixed to me. With that being said, I do think this is an interesting format to explore, and I hope Blast doesn't abandon it after this year. This is just my specific feedback, having watched both events earlier in the year and this one now. With that being said, for this recap today, we're going to focus mainly on the 4 games that were played in the upper bracket round of 16. We're going to briefly go over the 16 previous matches just to set the stage, and then we're going to move on. So bear with me, we'll be getting to Astralis versus NAVI as our first specific bit of analysis in just a minute. I'm going to shout 16 best of 3 scorelines at you before we get there. Starting off on day 1, August 5th, we had FUT losing to Bait 2-0. Liquid finally managing to win a best of 3 series online against Astatic 2-0. G2 taking care of Nemiga quite soundly 2-0. Faze winning a series for once in my goddamn life over BetBoom also 2-0. On the next day, we had Vergil'sPro taking out MIBR 2-0. Please free Insani, Jesus fucking Christ. TNL managed to take NAVI to 3 maps, but NAVI still walked away with the victory. Passion UA continued to be a tier 2 team that can be really threatening in the right scenarios, taking a map off Team Spirit, though Team Spirit managed to right the ship long enough for Dong to do damage and ended up winning the series 2-1. Astralis took out Rare Adam 2-0 to round out the second day of competition. On the third day, Furia beat Big 2-0. Mouse dropped a map to OG but still won the series 2-1. Pain took out NIP in a quite exciting series 2-1, and Legacy beat Fnatic. Please free Blame F, please retire Crims 2-1. And then in the final day of the round of 32, we opened up with Mongols beating Ents 2-1, Aurora beating FlyQuest 2-0, Vitality taking out NRG despite their best efforts 2-0, and then Heroic beating Complexity 2-1. Rest in peace, NACS forever dead. So I believe other than Legacy challenging and beating Fnatic, there were no upsets, no bounties claimed in the entirety of the first leg of this event. We redrew the brackets, we re-laid out the challenges, and today begins the round of 16, building into the LAN playoffs later this week. Our first game of the day was between Astralis and NAVI. And because we're narrowed down to some of the better teams in the world, we finally got our first bounty upset as Astralis, who were seed 12, take out NAVI, who were seed 7. This is a huge win for Astralis. Yes, online best of 3 adds an immediate asterisk. However, Astralis have now made it to the playoffs of yet another LAN event. This one's going to feature all of the best teams in the world, and they took out NAVI, who were riding a little bit of a high exiting IEM Cologne. This was a 3-map series. On the first one on Dust 2, things were exceptionally close, with both teams playing very dominant CT sides, but NAVI would walk away with a late victory 13-11. They got to match point 12-9, but managed to concede a little bit of momentum to a low bot Astralis. In the following round after, what I really enjoyed was NAVI took full advantage of a full Glock save to just sit and talk about it. The classic 5 Glock timeout, the full minute 30 used to figure out whatever their plan would be going into the final round of play. Eventually they had to run it down, and Hooksy and Pitt took 2 before going down, and Wonderful got 2 picks with the Glock, including a teammate, but they figured out what they wanted to do, and after all of the combined brain power of every single player on NAVI, Alexi B and Blade came together with the Megasword. They found the secret strat to win on Dust 2. They 5-man B-rushed it for the win. God, I love Counter-Strike. Beautiful game. In terms of individuals, Device was very excellent for Astralis, ending with 20 kills, being the best player on their team, with Stare right behind him, dropping 17. Meanwhile, Bit led the way for NAVI, going 22-11. Wonderful also dueled Device very closely throughout the map, with the op matchup feeling very even. I would say for NAVI, the worrying signs were kind of there, as Makase continues to kind of struggle on the T sides. He was much more effective in the CT half, while in the second half he only had 6 kills to 9 deaths. Nice. Emma also did not have a good time. He ends as their worst overall player, even ahead of Alexi B by rating. Spoiler alert, throughout the series, Emma would be pretty bad on every map, and that definitely left NAVI lacking in total firepower. Unfortunately, Emma wasn't the only one who would go on to struggle. Makaze would have a terrible time throughout the rest of the series on Inferno and Nuke, as NAVI had simply no way to contain the Astralis T-sides. Astralis T-sides across both the 13-7 win on Inferno and the 13-2 win on Nuke held NAVI to just 3 total CT side rounds. Device shown once again on Inferno leading the way with 22 kills, and then it was Yabby and Styles' turn to lead the way on Nuke, going for 18 and 15 kills respectively. Overall, this was just an absolute gap in firepower from Astralis. I don't know if this would happen every time they play up, as I think on paper, Navi and Astralis should be fairly closely matched, but Imba and Makaze aren't going to be this bad every time, so I would expect Navi to put up more of a fight on a map like Inferno or Nuke especially. Unfortunately, due to this being single elimination, Navi are now out, which means they made the playoffs at IEM Cologne, and then failed to duplicate that at Blast Bounty. But again, these are online games, so I'm not going to hold that too much against them. For Astralis, it's yet another LAN playoff for them, showing that HooXi is once again the Giga Chad Extreme. Moving on, our next series, you know what's about to come up. It's probably the title. It's almost certainly the thumbnail. Faze lost a 3-map series to fucking Virtus Pro. Electronic beat Kerrigan. I hate everything about how this played out. Because on one hand, Elige was fantastic, genuinely fantastic, for almost every part of this series. It was really everyone else on Faze who was hit and miss, and once we get to the final ending on Inferno, disastrous on the CT side. One step at a time, in all fairness to Electronic and Virtus Pro, I thought they played a genuinely great series, and really showed some great aggression, surprisingly, on the T sides, again, especially on Inferno, more on that in just a minute. Split and Fame were both fantastic, but really it was the even spread of firepower. It was really only Perfecto who severely lagged behind everybody else after all 3 maps ending with a 27 and 43 disastrous performance, but that was enough to overcome Faze, who were really, again, lacking any notable firepower other than the bald goat himself. We opened things up on Overpass, which is a map I think Faze will be able to utilize quite well going into the future, but we're off to a bad start here. Namely, Faze win a close pistol round defuse retake situation in the first round, and then immediately lose the second round force buy. They're going to repeat that performance on the second half, and it's going to allow Virtus Pro to run away with huge runs momentum in both sides. On the first half, they're able to quell the bleeding. In the second half, they allowed VP to convert that momentum into 7 straight CT rounds. Overall, making both halves feel very lopsided, and if it wasn't for the fact that VP's own T-side ran out of steam halfway through the first half, I think this would have ended up being a blowout in VP's favor. Another narrative to keep an eye on here for Faze throughout the series was their lack of success in the opening kill column. On this map, they lose to VP 15-8 in opening kills, and for the series, they get roundly trounced, with VP walking away with 41 first kill advantages versus Faze's 26. Walking into so many rounds in 4v5 situations when you're already a team that's plagued by firepower issues is going to continue to be a huge thorn in the side for Faze. Elige simply can't do it all. We need opening success from players like Rain and Kerrigan, but they're really finding mixed amounts of it, especially on the T sides. You're even seeing Frozen take the initiative on sometimes going for openers, but here on Overpass he goes 0 for 3 in such attempts, and it feels like a misuse of what he's very good at otherwise. And again, it's just anemic T sides from Faze. In the second half, they lose 7 straight after winning the pistol round because they can't keep a hold on any kind of momentum, and most of all, Elige is the only player getting real impact. Brokey only goes 4 and 8 throughout the rest of this game, as VP run away with it to a 13-10 victory. On Ancient, however, Elige would turn up the firepower in a big way. He would simply stomp out the server, leading Faze to a 13-9 victory. Elige on the T side here was monstrous. He walks away going 14 and 9 with a 1.51 rating, 4 and 2 in opening kills. He had 4 multi-kills as well throughout that first half. And this was just Elige doing what he does best. This is what he was doing in his peak on complexity last year, similar to Donk in a lot of ways, where you just send Elige as a missile out middle to take space, and he's going to find a way to get a double kill almost every fucking time. And right behind him, having a great game in his own right, was Kerrigan, who ends the match going 18 and 14 with a 1.21 rating. It was kind of funny to see Kerrigan and Electronic essentially swap spots, as Electronic top fragged on Overpass with 21 kills, but pulls up to Ancient and puts up kind of a goose egg going 7 and 19. This was also by far the game that Faze were the closest in terms of opening kills, going 10 to 12 versus Virtus Pro in that time. Overall, this was Elige just manhandling Virtus Pro and taking Faze to a victory, and going into Inferno, I think things were looking a lot stronger. It was a very, very good first half T-side from Faze, winning 8 rounds and holding Virtus Pro to only 2 separate gun rounds outside of winning the pistol round. But one thing we have to draw attention to is that VergilsPro have done fantastically at securing early momentum. On Overpass, they won emphatic force buys on both halves after losing pistols that allowed them to just take a chokehold over the game. And going into the second half, it looks like Faze might be able to run away with this to victory as Kerrigan gets a fucking fantastic clutch on the A bomb site, hitting some insane USP flicks onto the players in pit. Kerrigan really rolling back the years when you combine that with his ancient performance. He figured that puts you at 9 rounds. VergilsPro, they have no momentum going. All you have to do is just hold shit down. That clutch from Kerrigan was the last round Faze would win in the series. And really, I kind of have to call it what it is. I thought a lot of the calls on the CT side from Faze were just poor. Like here, on this force buy defense, Kerrigan kind of loses this early exchange, but they managed to get a pick back on Electronic with a grenade. It was a 4v4 situation, but VergilsPro, they grind the round to a halt. This is their typical style. They're going to stall out the clock and execute late. But for whatever reason, Faze take a wild gamble to fully stack the 4 remaining players on A on what I really can't tell. I don't know what the cue from them was that they should stack A. I don't know if it was just a read, a guess, whatsoever, but as soon as this re-smoke for Banana comes in clearly from the A side, that telegraphs to VergilsPro that B is understaffed. So they just push right through it into an empty bomb site, and that causes an immediate save, because why are you going to go for a 4v4 retake with no utility, no kit, and no resources when you can save the MP9s on the rifle for the next round? But at the same time, why did you just give up B? Why? Why? It was just pitiful. Faze gave up opening kills in 6 rounds on the second half. It's a mess. I'll get angry if I keep talking about it. Again, online best of 3. Is it the biggest loss in the world? No. Does it actually make me extremely angry as an individual? Yes. Fuck you, VergilsPro. Alright, we're going to speed things up here with the last 2 series. Next up, we had G2 taking on Team Spirit. And credit to G2 for throwing up a damn good performance through most of the series, and most of all, holding Donk to one of his worst best of 3 games we've seen from him. Now again, granted, what have we said every 30 seconds in this video? Online best of 3s don't count the same, but they do count for something. And the fact that Spirit managed to win a game, win a series, with Donk having a sub 1 rating for the first time literally ever is quite interesting to have seen played out. Meanwhile, for G2, I think they played about as well as you could ask for, and really only faded down the stretch on Dust 2 and the final map, which is of course Spirit's best map. But walking things back, I think there is a fair argument that G2 could have won this series in 2-0 fashion, because frankly, they could not convert a very dominant position on Mirage. They exited the first half off of a great T-side performance with a 7-5 lead, and it managed to control the pace very well on the CT side. But in a final round sprint, Spirit managed to convert 5 of the last 6 and swipe victory away, with Donk putting up one of his career worst performances on the map. Donk ends the game with going 9-18. When was the last time you have ever seen Donk have a scoreline this bad? Oh wait, it doesn't happen. And a lot of credit has to go to Zontix and Zwei, who worked really well around the margins to find openers or ways back into rounds after Donk died early. Keep in mind that throughout this second half, Donk goes 1-2 in openers, so someone had to step up and fill the gap. And that got spread a lot evenly between Zwei, Zontix, Chomper, and Shiro, each of them finding moments to get those picks. Zwei, Zontix, and Chomper did really well with the rifles to back up the fact that Donk was so absent. Here's a great example of that. It's an 11-11 scoreline, both teams low on money. Winning this round more or less converts the entire map, and it's going to be a massive mid-exchange. Heavy God's going to jump out window and push up as Spirit laid down the close cat smoke to try and take some early space towards the boxes. He's going to swing around the side and find Donk in the middle of no man's land and get a free pick. But meanwhile, Chopper shot through the cat smoke and up catwalk like a bat out of hell to instantly claw an advantage back. Zontix follows up with another pick towards the B site, and suddenly Spirit in a great position to pinch down and push in. With a death nail shot from Zwei on the van, what could have been a 5v4 advantage for G2 crumbles almost instantly with a great response push from Spirit, allowing them to secure match point and eventually convert the victory, just showing how well Spirit managed to deal with Donk being missing on these T-side rounds. However, Donk would not find his form on Ancient. Meanwhile, G2 would roar back in a powerful way, with Hunter from the leadership role totally smurfing on the entire lobby. And frankly, we have to take this with a pinch of salt. When you first kind of make that swap to IGLing, initially your fragging isn't hit nearly as hard. See no further than the fact that Liquid with Twist initially looked a lot better than people were expecting, but of course we know where it ended up. Point being that I'm not surprised that Hunter has still been so proficient as an individual is because he hasn't been so embedded into the IGL culture that his personal practice hasn't been affected yet. But it'll happen. IGLs always drop their performance. It's a steady trend for a reason. Anyways, Hunter ends the map with 24 kills, 107 ADR, and a 1.50 rating, and G2 held Spirit's T side to only 2 rounds, with Donk having an absolutely miserable go of it once again, going 8-11, but more importantly, not succeeding in getting his opening kill quota, going 1-2 in the process. Zwei actually had a very impactful T-side alongside him, managed to get some of those openers in his place, but it couldn't make up the difference. And with Hunter closing out so many dominant rounds on the defense, especially rotating into B, it left Spirit too far behind to make a comeback happen. They had a little bit of a cosmetic look at one, winning 5 straight rounds, but G2 were already at match point. They only need to luck into one more site take and win, and with Hunter busting open into A, they managed to make that work. Going into Dust 2, if Donk was going to maintain this level of play, then certainly the door was wide open for G2 to make a run at this upset victory. And through the first half, I think that was looking more possible. Shiro was looking great, Donk was managing to pop off in places, but he wasn't overwhelming the scoreboard like you would expect. Shout out to Donk for this triple dig on the B side, by the way. That third shot is fucking crazy. But with the first half lead at only 7-5, Spirit definitely could have conceded this. The big thing that went right for them was even though they lost the pistol round, they converted a great force buy on the second and ran away with 5 straight CT side rounds because of it. At this point, Donk is fully back. He had a great map to close, not the best. Shiro was actually popping off with 23 kills, but Donk maintained a steady performance at 17 kills, not as many deaths, a lot better on the openers, and with Zontic's Way and Chopper also playing quite great, it was really down to the fact that G2 ran out of firepower at one of the worst moments. Malbs and Maddies especially going 11-17 and 8-16 respectively during that time. Overall, G2, the door was open. You could have upset Spirit and would have been a big storyline, but congrats Team Spirit for managing to convert a series where Donk was human for once. Literally first time ever, by the way. I know I already said that, but it bears worth repeating. First time. Don't make that a habit, Team Spirit. And our last match of the day, we saw Liquid come out of nowhere and win a series against a good team for once as they beat Furia 2-1, even though they got slapped around on the opening map of Mirage. Overall, this is a good win for Liquid, and I want nothing to be taken away from that. However, I am going to throw 35 caveats in front of the train and then look the other way, because that's just what I do here. I can't, in any good conscience, be overly positive about this win from Team Liquid for a few factors. One, Furia lost the game themselves. They were fucking throwing away rounds like it was literally their only purpose on this earth, and they gave Liquid every opportunity to win this series. Alright, I think if we replayed this series right now, Furia would smash Team Liquid. Team Liquid are not suddenly on the caliber of a team like Furia. They simply haven't shown enough. So that gives me very little confidence going forward into a LAN environment where Liquid have been even worse. Regardless of that, it's still an incredibly important win for Liquid because it stems the bleeding, which they've been doing a lot of since they left Cologne. So yeah, VP Prodigy was still a disaster. Liquid literally 4 days ago didn't feel like an actual functioning team according to Twists. And then they go on to play some of their best, most cohesive Counter-Strike we've seen in literal fucking months because Team Liquid, if nothing else, love to take us for a fucking ride. However, none of that happened on Mirage as Furia thumped them 13-4 to start. Yakindar was literally unstoppable. He was taking multi-kills, triple kills, and 4 kills like it was literally given to him by God. He ends the map with 22 kills, 125 ADR, he has a 1.94 rating, and Liquid failed to put up a single CT round and barely managed to stay above water in any regard. It's really not much more to be said here. NAF was the only player to reach double digits, everyone else was in the absolute gutter, Ultimate was getting punted by Molodoy. Next map. Train was an incredible bounce back from Team Liquid, with pretty much every single player coming online when they absolutely needed it. The rifling core of Twist, NAF, and Nerds would all reach double digits in the first half on the CT side, allowing them to carry a narrow 7-5 lead into their T side effort. It was just good to see these guys work so well together and for Nerds' aggression to really be rewarded. He's been by far one of the most inconsistent pieces in this roster this entire year, and when his entering is not working, it just makes Team Liquid look like they don't have a backup plan, as far too much has to go into Ultimate taking ridiculous amounts of space instead. So when NAVI succeeds, the rest of the team gets lifted up, because we know how good Twist and NAF are going to be in the clutch, and Ultimate's bursts of impact can be better capitalized upon. I also think SHOUTOUT did a very good job of navigating the T side, as Liquid closed out the game strongly to win it 13-6. Now, in fairness, Furia were getting battered in the fragging department, with Yakindar really falling back to earth compared to Mirage, while Keserato and Molodoi failed to keep things in check without that added impact. I don't think Furia were necessarily making bad moves, they were simply missing shots and getting a little unlucky at points. Unfortunately, that trend would continue and be magnified tenfold on Dust 2, as Liquid seemed to find a way to win every bullshit fucking clutch they possibly could. I do mean to the extent that if you're Furia, this loss burns, because you by no means made critical errors, you just failed to close out those rounds at the supreme moments. You won the majority of openers, you had good advantages, especially on the CT side, but you pissed them away in the retakes like it was your goddamn day job. Like, look at some of this chaos, like SHOUTOUT leading the charge into B on the T side, and look at all this mess on the back of the site in the smokes. Nobody can find Yuri, he's slipping around. SHOUTOUT has to slip off and just try and get the plant down because they're running out of time, and then Yuri bursts through the smoke and manages to get a kill before he goes down, but still, in the end, he's boxed out from his teammates because getting through the B doors is next to impossible. So even though Yuri lives as long as humanly possible, it doesn't leave any room for Furia to try and convert the round. They had Liquid right where they want them, but they couldn't find a way to get that final kill. Ultimate similarly had a great clutch to put them on match point later on in that same half, working on the B site once again, and the B site just proved to overall be a liability for Furia in this matchup. Despite Yuri doing quite a lot while anchoring down there, it was just the retakes that really fell short. So again, it's a great win for Team Liquid. It's a really, really great win for them, but I still have to sit here and be overly skeptical because Team Liquid have not shown anything close to what I call consistency over the last several months. Hopefully, they can do some damage in the LAN environment. Frankly, I'm not holding out some hope. Anyways, that's going to be it with this overly long recap. Hopefully you guys enjoyed a little bit of breakdown about the tournament format in the beginning. Tomorrow, we'll be here once again to cover the last 4 matches on the way towards the LAN finals later this week. So hopefully you guys will be there when it's done. Make sure you guys leave a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, help me hit 10k subs by the end of the year. Follow me on twitch.tv/LionHeartZ2. The last part of this recap was made live over there after I played some Battlefield 6, which was a great time. If you want to catch me live, either editing videos or playing Counter-Strike or playing some variety games, help me do it over there and help me hit 1,000 followers soon so that I can hopefully co-stream more events in the future. Thank you to Skins Monkey for sponsoring this video. Check the top link in the description. You share on their website. It lets them know I sent you their way. Thank you to my channel members: Justin, Jesse Furley, Milan Berta, Bubblesj, Dr. Cocktor, Patatas Kaftesi, PTR, B1 Games, Cody Foxworthy, Justin Vegt, I'm Flashbang, Snowy White, Rowdy, Vergil'sPlasticChair, LBKcs, Snax Enjoyer, Zero2CS, Crunchy Water, and our newest channel member, drudenae. If you want to become a channel member, you can do so in the link description down below. For $5 a month, you can get that video just like this, as well as a custom roller community Discord. I'll see you guys soon in another video. Peace.